Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast. Wanted to jump on today and talk a bit about time management. As you can see, I'm joined by Matthew Gamblin. We are business partners, which is super exciting, of a business slash startup called Fluxion AI, based out of Sydney, Australia, and cannot wait to talk more about it. At the moment, current roles are Matthew is the COO with previous financial experience, and me with the tech background. I'd be CEO, particularly with the Google experience. And Matthew can talk about, if you go back to the previous podcast, mentions multiple things on his, not things, but milestones on his journey with London, Byron Bay. So international experience and managing significant amounts of people and money. So yeah, welcome back to the podcast, Matty.
Thanks, Ryan. Pleasure to be here. So I think we're going to talk about time management today. Is that what you're going to explore in a bit more detail?
Yeah, I think so. It's one of those things where I probably learned a lot about it growing up, especially in school and secondary school, primary school, but mainly secondary school, but especially in the fitness industry, as you've experienced as well, Matthew, with the classes back to back and making sure you finished in the hour in a service-based industry. Time management is super important. So I think we'll get into it. I suppose also people may be wondering, or anyone out there, aspiring founders, may be wondering what a day looks like or a typical schedule. So we'll talk a bit about it. And yeah, let's jump in. So I just going to go over to ChatGPT real quick. Time management isn't about cramming more into your day. It's about deciding what actually deserves your time and protecting it. Here's a simple, practical way to approach it. Number one, get clear on your priorities. If everything feels important, nothing really is. Ask yourself daily, what 1 to 3 things actually matter today? There's a question mark. Focus on those before anything else. Number two, use time blocks instead of a long to-do list. Assign tasks to specific time slots. 9 to 10:30 deep work, 11 to 11:30 emails, 2 to 3 meetings. This reduces decision fatigue, which we discussed, I think, last week or the week before. I think it was last week, and keeps you on track. Number three, try the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. About 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. Find the few tasks that actually move things forward and prioritize those. Number four, limit distractions. Small interruptions destroy focus. Try turning off non-essential notifications, using quote focus mode end quote in your phone, working in short uninterrupted bursts like 25 to 50 minutes. Number five, use the quote 2-minute rule, end quote. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. This prevents small tasks from piling up. Number six, plan tomorrow today. Before you finish your day, decide your top 3 priorities for tomorrow. When you'll do them, this makes your day start smoothly. Number seven, don't overfill your schedule. If your day is packed, you'll fall behind. Leave buffer time. It's realistic, not lazy. And before we move on to the next part, I know there's some generic advice out there that we could give, but I'd just love to know, Matty, if you have anything to add to what we just briefly discussed or what's on ChatGPT.
Yeah, I guess ChatGPT is giving a very structured answer, but there's a lot of things that happen outside of life that might impact the day. So, for example, I know myself at the moment, I'm in between moving places and then trying to also start a startup. So quite a stressful situation. Usually people are only having to kind of juggle one of those things at any one point in time. So it's particularly what I try and do is keep some sort of level of consistency within there. So at the moment I'm still doing training, but I'm not really flogging myself on the training floor. I'm just doing something to keep my mind occupied. And I think that's what's strongly resonated with ourselves. We're quite structured in terms of we're only focusing on a key few items within in the business, which we know at this point is revenue and raising money. They're like the 2 key priorities and focusing our activities around that at this particular point in our journey. Was there anything else that you wanted to add into that?
Yeah, definitely, Matty. I appreciate the mention of outside of work as well. There's things that could happen in someone's personal life, and also the focus areas for, I think in the past, maybe I haven't, but I can see sometimes that even when I was in the fitness industry, clients or people working on multiple things at once, it can be challenging. I think having one or two or three clear priorities, even the one thing, which for us was a CTO, but now it's revenue and raising money, or one to three priorities, because there's two of us, we can sort of handle that. But yeah, it's super important to have that focus, I think.
Yeah, without it, you just end up doing all these activities that kind of lead nowhere and you feel overwhelmed. And I think that's probably good, particularly because we have two people. We can go, are we actually focusing on the right things? And then we've done this a couple of times already. We've cut conversations a bit shorter because we know they're not leading down the right pathway, or where because of potentially some certain financial constraints, we're looking to pivot and do things a little bit more cost effectively to be able to extend our runway as well.
Definitely, definitely. And I'll go over to gemini.google.com. Mastering your time is one of the most effective ways to reduce stress and increase your productivity, not by doing more, but by doing what matters, which we briefly talked about. Well, we talked about in detail. Since, quote, time management, end quote, is a broad topic, I've synthesized the most effective, battle tested strategies into a framework that you can start using today, which adds on to our conversation. Number one, prioritization frameworks. Before you start working, you need to know what to work on. Avoid the trap of, which you talked about, activities, quote, busy work, end quote, by categorizing tasks, the Eisenhower matrix, which is super interesting. Provide your task into four quadrants: urgent and important, do these immediately; deadlines, crises, not urgent and important, schedule these; long-term goals, exercise, skill building. This is where high leverage growth happens. Urgent and not important, delegate or automate these; interruptions, some emails, neither; eliminate these time wasters. Quote, eat the frog, end quote. Mark Twain famously suggests that if you eat a live frog first thing in the morning, nothing worse will happen to you the rest of the day. Identify your most difficult or anxiety inducing tasks and complete it first. Everything else will matter, or everything else will feel easier afterward. Yeah, I think I'd just like to stop there. I think it's super interesting, especially the eat the frog. I haven't heard that in a sec. That was, yeah, I used to do that quite a bit. Exercise early in the morning, and I know you still are a fan of it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Ryan, I think the eat the frog can be anyone's type of analogy, right? I think for both myself and you, eat the frog was hard exercise. So you've done something challenging for the day. So I know for me, that then the rest of the day seemed a lot easier, no matter what kind of would get thrown at me. So yeah, I find that hilarious though.
Yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. It's one of those things as well where making sure you don't fall asleep at like 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. doing, if the training intensity is too hard in the morning. I find myself doing more recovery these days just with the injury, but it's great. I think eat the frog is a really if you haven't done it before, it's a great principle to implement into your day. Let's continue on Gemini. Number two, execution technique. Once you know what to do, use these methods to actually get it done. Time blocking. Instead of a to-do list, assign specific tasks to specific blocks of time in your calendar. Treat these blocks like non-negotiable appointments with yourself. The Pomodoro technique: work in focused 25-minute intervals, a quote, Pomodoro, end quote, followed by a 5-minute break. After 4 cycles, take a longer 15 to 30-minute break. This keeps your brain fresh and prevents burnout. The 2-minute rule: if a task will take less than 2 minutes to complete, do it immediately. Adding it to a list often takes more time than just finishing it. Number three, and this is something I've learned on top of time management, is protecting your energy. Time management is often actually energy management. Batch similar tasks. Context switching is expensive for your brain. Group similar activities, e.g., answering all emails, making all phone calls, or administrative work into one dedicated time block. Control your environment. Turn off non essential notifications during deep work sessions. If you are working on a computer, use browser extensions or OS settings to block distraction or distracting sites. Learn to say, quote, no, end quote. Every time you say, quote, yes, end quote, to a non-essential request, you are saying, quote, no, end quote, to your own priorities. Protect your time as you would your finances. Pro tip: end your day by planning the next. Write down your top three, quote, must do, end quote, task for tomorrow before you finish the day. Excuse me. This clears your mind for rest and allows you to hit the ground running the next morning. Yeah, I think I'll hold up there, Matty. Anything? There's so much to.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I know personally for myself, I don't actually have a lot of the notifications on the apps. Um, I find that's a distraction, so I turn a lot of them off. I know probably like a lot of other people, I'm on so many different WhatsApp groups. I've gone through and culled myself on all these historic ones that I don't actually use. I think there's an interesting book. I don't know if you've heard or read of it. It's called Stolen Focus, and they explore. Yeah, obviously we've got all these tools and everything that now exist, and they're all vying for our attention. A good example is obviously Instagram with the infinite scroll. They can turn it off, but it doesn't get turned off. Also, with some of the LLM models and the chatbots that exist, they're designed to keep you on them because they keep asking you questions. So that's why I think you've got to be quite careful. I'm going to throw in a random fact at you too. So, what do you think the average office worker in America spends on a task before they get disrupted?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. No, I wouldn't know. I think, yeah,
It's pretty low. It's like I think it's between like 2 and 5 minutes.
yeah. I think,
So,
yeah, it's yeah. I think that's crossed my mind before somewhere, but yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's a great. Thank you for bringing it up. It's yeah, it's very hard to get anything done if it's 5 minutes and 2 to 5 minutes.
correct. Well, I mean, you can now if you have a good AI prompts, you can actually get a lot done. But if we're talking about in terms of critically thinking through a problem and so forth, I know that myself, I have to kind of get in the headspace to be able to think about it. And that might take me a long time. And if I'm getting pinged by notifications or like respond to emails and so forth, as opposed to actually applying the knowledge to think through a problem, which will save time in the longer run. It's just being able to, again, devote the time to that thinking and concentrating on what needs to be completed as opposed to just getting pulled left, right, and center, which again, I'm sure you've experienced this, Ryan, will elevate your stress levels and you start to feel overwhelmed and then nothing gets done.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Just I won't give too much away, but something we've used as and we talked about before on the podcast is Google Workspace. Syncing calendars is a great way of making sure myself and Maddie are on the same page with meetings or making sure we're uninterrupted. We were using a hybrid approach as well, but the calendar is great. Just even when we do any sort of when we're not in the city, it's just a great way to go back and forth. Yeah, that's where I find it's really optimal for meetings, especially when you've got a number of things going on, and it's very easy to other priorities to come onto your plate or other things to come onto your plate. But when you have that focus and the one or two or three, or at least the one thing or the three priorities of that day, calendars are super helpful if you're not used to using one.
Yeah, and I think it's more relevant in today's world, right? Because there's just more and more things, and things are happening quickly as well. So we're having to consume a lot of information very quickly. And just to kind of touch back on before, like if you've got a few external life events that you're trying to manage, and other kind of parties, like say if you threw a family in there and you've got to do school pickups or one of your kids is sick, that just adds an extra dynamic. So you might have a couple of things that you're focusing on for work, and then there might be also a couple of personal things as well to be able to try and stay on top of them as a constant reminder of what needs to get actioned.
Definitely, and I just love to talk about. We've already talked about one tool, the calendar, and that's more of a. It's you can use it for personal life or academics, even in work in business. I think what's great for me personally, and it's something that's very basic that someone may just say, "Oh, you know what? It's not even a thing," but it's just wearing a watch. I think wearing a watch or a simple Casio, which maybe costs $10, $15 if it's in your if it's in your price range, maybe you prioritize other things at the moment. But yeah, wearing a watch is this really really easy way of staying on top of your time as well. I find it super helpful. I even know for myself from just taking it off for a week or two or three, then putting it back on, I'm just a little more clued in when it comes to managing my time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I should take that one for you, Ryan, because I've never worn a watch, but I actually used to when I was younger, and particularly when I did study and so forth, because I used to time myself on those sorts of metrics. But yeah, maybe I should go out and actually get a get a watch. I know that you're big into them because they've also got the recovery element as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The watches are great, and there's another tool which excuse me. There's another tool which I won't talk too much about, but it's the productivity planner. I know there's 101 different things we're throwing out here. We'll get to one big takeaway at the end, but the productivity planner, which is a journal by I think it's by one sec, productivity planner by Alex Icon and Mimi Icon. There's a CEO maybe in charge, but it's by intelligentchange.com. See if I can add it below. That's what I have experimented with in the past as well to try and stay on top of my day. It's if you're not if you're not into technical stuff like the online calendar, the with the Google Calendar or any other products, or you don't want to wear a watch, this is a great way, the productivity planner, to make sure you stay on top of your day. I think, have you used any journals in the past, Maddie, to stay on top, or a notepad, or is it you very much, um, yeah, the calendar I can use on my phone as well. I'm not sure if you have any sort of productivity or time management
Mm,
tips on top.
I usually, well, in terms of like key tasks, I usually will use Google Calendar, but similar, I'll kind of block out blocks of time to achieve certain pieces of work. And then if it's something more complex, so something that I'm going to have to repeatedly do, and it's like a process, then I'll look to perhaps build a process around it. And then it might take you longer in the beginning, but it creates that flywheel concept to then be able to unlock kind of productivity. And that's more coming from, I guess, a professional services background. If you're having to juggle multiple priorities, yeah, kind of critically thinking through where am I having to continually spend my time, and then you can look to embed some sort of process to reduce what you're having to do there that speeds it up.
Definitely, and just another tool, and the last one, I don't wanna overwhelm people, is Notion. We talked about it on the podcast as well, but if you go back a number of episodes, just a great productivity hack, and that's another digital. So we have 2 non-digital items, 2 digital items, of, 2 a watch, a journal, the productivity planner, or just a mole skin journal. And then the 2 digital ones will be Notion and the Google Calendar or Calendar. So the different calendar products out there. You can try a few. I think Notion has a calendar product as well. But let's go over to Claude. We're just over 15 minutes, I think. So let's just one sec. It kind of repeats itself. Here are the most effective time management strategies grouped by what they're best for. Prioritization, the Eisenhower matrix, we talked about. The MIT method, each morning, pick your three most important tasks, do those before anything else, which is kind of we talked about already. Focus and deep work, the Pomodoro technique, time blocking, single task, multitask, kills efficiency, batch similar tasks, emails, calls, errands together instead. Planning, we didn't talk about planning as much. Weekly review, spend 15 to 30 minutes every Sunday reviewing what's coming up, clearing your inbox and setting your top priorities for the week. 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. We talked about that. Eat the frog. We talked about that. Protecting your time. Default to quote, no, end quote. I find myself saying no to more things now. In my early 20s, I was saying yes to a lot of things. And now I say no to quite a number of things just to align myself with priorities. As myself and Maddie already discussed, set hard stop times, deadlines, create focus, give yourself less time than you think you need. Reduce decision fatigue, which is something that's popped up before in our conversations. Routinize low stakes decisions, meals, outfits, morning routines, so your energy goes on what matters. The biggest leveler for most people is planning the night before. Knowing exactly what you're doing when you wake up removes the friction of starting. And yeah, I think that's most things. And do you have anything to add, Maddie, on the what's on Claude or?
No, I think maybe it's just an insight in terms of maybe what is decision fatigue and when you can maybe notice what's starting to happen. So I notice, like, I've gone through periods where I'm having to make constant decisions every day. There's a lot of things happening, and I get to it, and I'm like, oh, I'm really drained, and that might be happening back to back to back. So I think, and if you realize that you're feeling fatigued from making that, and you can't concentrate to make a big decision, I think you need to look at going on, why am I having to make all these constant decisions? Which comes back to some of the time management, but also comes back to potentially a process. Maybe it's potentially talking to, yeah, like in our case, a co-founder or another worker to be able to go, well, can you pick some of this up? To be able to maybe identify the core issue of why you're constantly having to make certain decisions, and how that's leading you to experience decision fatigue. Because ultimately, what that'll end up doing, if you don't let anyone know and nothing changes, it'll continue, and then you'll fall into this cascade of where you start making bad decisions.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, and a lot of the decisions that we're making at the moment to avoid any mental exhaustion or to avoid anything over our willpower or any judgment that's incorrect is we automate a lot of the things, a lot of our week by week or day to day at the moment with the calendar and with our syncs. So yeah, I just think it's super important. That's a really great input on decision fatigue. I think I'm not sure if you're ready to we get into the one big thing about time management before we finish off, and then we can add at the end. Or
Yeah, let's get into the one big thing.
perfect. So the one big thing about time management, and make it this: do the most important thing first, not the easiest, not the fastest, not the one you quote feel like end quote doing, the one that actually matters. Most people lose time not because they're lazy, but because they start with small, easy tasks, avoid difficult or important work, get busy instead of being productive. By the time they get to the important thing, they're tired or out of time. How to apply this? Just a simple version every day. Number one, pick one main task, your priority. Number two, do it first thing or as early as possible. Number three, don't switch tasks until it's done or significantly progressed. Example, instead of checking phone, replying to messages, or doing random small tasks, do this. Start with your assignment, work, study immediately. Everything else comes after. It sounds simple, but it's hard, and it's exactly why it works. If you follow just this one rule consistently, your productivity will improve more than using 10 complicated systems. And I think, just to briefly add, I think for me, it was the gym and keeping an eye on my health previously. Now it's more based on recovery. Just I train the evening times. So I like to recover in the morning. But even at 9 a.m., or if you like to go to work at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 5 a.m., whatever it is, uh, not just doing the first thing in the morning when you wake up, but for me, it's also doing the first thing at work. Like, what does that look like? Just an example. I know we talked about prioritizing the day previously the night before, but I like to hit the ground running, whether it's meetings or whether it's I kind of have a system in place. But yeah, just to go back to the one big thing, I don't want to overcomplicate it. For me, it was the gym. Now it's probably recovery. If you only remember one big thing about time management, make it this: do the most important thing first. And I don't know if you want to add to that, Maddie, but I think it's super important. Doing the most important thing in the day when you kind
Yeah,
of.
I certainly agree, Ryan. And I guess maybe because we have a bit more experience, we can identify what the most important thing is. But for younger people there, if you're not sure, I guess that's where you need to be looking to some of the senior people within your organization to help them to get you to focus on what the one important or a couple of important things are. Um, yeah, to help give you that strategic direction. That's essentially what they're in the organization for, to help you figure out what is important versus not important. Because I remember when I first started, I didn't know. You kind of think that everything is important, and then you're like, well, I've just got to take on more work, more, and do everything for everyone to try and feel liked. But that's not always the case, right? You just need to be quite, again, focused, and perhaps rely on some senior personnel if you haven't developed those skills yet.
Definitely. Definitely. It's a process and it's trial and error, but yeah, I think that's the podcast. I think that's it. If you want to go over and find more out about Fluxium, you can check out fluxium.ai or the website, the LinkedIn. Or if you want to learn about myself and Maddie, the best place is probably again, LinkedIn or social media. Is there anything you'd like to add as well? Or
No, I totally agree with that's where you can find us. I think the only thing I would add in, Ryan, is there is the work side of things, and then make sure that you do put in some time to do some social activities and have some things to look forward to outside of the work life as well. I think that's quite important to factor that in. So we obviously concentrating on how to manage your time and your stress levels, but also put a buffer in there to be able to do things outside, because you'll find that will give you a different type of energy, particularly if you're going through stressful situations.
Definitely. Love that, Matty. And thanks for listening, folks. Have a great rest of your day.
So yeah, I